Chapter 6. Echoes beneath the skin. The halls of the workshop had fallen into silence. The mess tents, the command stations, the perimeter posts. Everything was still. Even the wolves had curled in their dens, the weight of the night pressing gently down. Gunner walked beside Aeliana, their footsteps soft against the worn stone and reinforced floor plating of the workshop's residential wing. Here everything was quieter, familiar. The hum of power conduits, the warmth of ancient wood beside modern steel. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. At her door, she stopped. He did too. For a moment, neither moved. Then Gunner took her hand, calloused and warm, his thumb brushing across her fingers as if trying to memorize something he didn't dare hold on to. She looked up at him. He opened his mouth, but the words caught. Aeliana lifted her free hand and rested it gently against his chest. She didn't press, just felt, the slow, steady rhythm beneath. "You're still here?" she whispered. Gunner swallowed, his voice low. "Barely." She smiled, sad and real. Then she reached up. Her fingertips brushed the edge of his eye patch, hesitating. He flinched, just a twitch, but didn't stop her. "I want to see your face," she said quietly. He let her. She slid the patch up and off. The ruined eye beneath, scarred, sightless, surrounded by the jagged remnants of battle, was something few had ever seen, something he rarely showed. Aeliana didn't recoil. Her fingers traced the scar gently, reverently, from brow to cheek, across the broken ridge where fire and shadow had once torn him open. "You wear it well?" she said. He tried to scoff, failed. She met his gaze not with pity but with knowing. "The realms owe you more than they'll ever understand." He said nothing, just looked at her. Then slowly his hand lifted, brushing against the fabric near her waist, just above the place where she too bore a scar. One she'd never speak of unless asked. A wound burned into her by a separate battle with the same nightmare. Ultranacious. His fingers hovered there. "Two of a kind," he said. She nodded, eyes soft, voice just above breath. No one else would understand. Another silence, this one heavier, but full. Gunner dropped his hand. "You should rest." She didn't move away. Just looked at him one last time, his eye patch still in her hand. Then she stepped inside, pausing just once at the threshold. "I'll be here in the morning," she said. He nodded. "I know." The door slid shut behind her, and Gunner stood alone in the hall, the echo of her touch still pressed against his chest, her words lodged in a place deeper than any wound. Chapter 7. The Weight of Knowing. Maelorion stood in the uppermost room of the workshop, far above the sleeping compound. The air was still, touched with the faint scent of ash and cold stone. The walls were lined with old runes, half active, humming softly beneath layers of dust. Few even remembered this room existed. He preferred it that way. A single scrying basin glowed before him, calm and dim, its silver surface undisturbed. He wasn't watching the future, not tonight. Tonight, he simply stood in the quiet and listened to the weight of the world pressing against his ribs. The cornerstone had been placed. The paths between realms were waking again. But it wasn't politics or prophecy that held his thoughts. It was two people. Two souls standing at the edge of a storm they didn't even know existed. He had seen them, Gunner and Aeliana, as they walked together down the hall. He'd watched the way her hand lingered at his chest, the way he leaned toward her without meaning to, the silence that said more than any vow or declaration ever could. He had said nothing, because there was nothing to say. They were not fools. They knew the cost, and they were still resisting. Maelorion turned toward the window slit, where the sky was beginning to shift from indigo to deep blue. A few stars still clung to the edge of night. The workshop below was still, though the wolves would be rising soon. He rested one hand against the cold stone. And still, They fight it. The echo of his earlier thought returned sharper now. Not judgment, never that, but something closer to sorrow and respect. His fingers brushed the edge of a carved rune, ancient, curved like a crescent blade. The signs were gathering, the pull was tightening, and the balance, it was watching. He closed his eyes. Only 3 still knew. Only 3 could carry it. And the 2 at the centre. They were already burning, even if they hadn't yet caught fire. He turned back to the basin. Its silver surface shimmered faintly, then calmed. He would not scry. Not tonight. Some moments he had learned deserved to unfold without witness. Maelorion reached for the ancient journal beside him, opened it, and wrote a single line. They still resist. That, more than anything, may save us. Or doom us. He signed it in Elven script, then closed the book, and let the silence hold. Down on the barracks level, most of Echo Division had already turned in. But the old weapons locker, tucked behind a sealed hallway near the motor pool, still hummed with low light and warmth. It had become something of an unofficial lounge over the years, converted from steel and grit into a quiet fallback space. No ranks, no radio calls, just a place to breathe. Clara stood near the weapon rack, cleaning the dust from her gear. Her cloak hung beside the door. Her rifle rested on the table. Her staff of light leaned against the wall beside her, too powerful to leave unattended, too sacred to store casually. Darren stepped in without knocking. He held 2 battered mugs of Bianca's cider, still warm somehow, and tossed one toward her without ceremony. She caught it mid-air without looking. "Still got it," he said, letting the door click shut behind him. "You doubted?" "Number, but I figured you'd be too tired to catch something this fast." Clara sipped. "Then you don't know me." He grinned. "I missed you too." That earned a glance. Just a glance. He dropped onto the edge of a bench and leaned back until it creaked beneath his weight. "So, cornerstone's in. Realm politics still exhausting. Wolves still bite. You're back from a realm torn in half. How was your trip?" Clara didn't answer. She simply sat across from him, rolling her shoulders slowly, eyes still carrying the weight of Eldermire. Darren looked at her for a long moment, then set his mug down and leaned forward, forearms on his knees. "I know I joke around a lot," he said, eyes down. "I make things awkward. I flirt with the cafeteria drones. I insult counsellors. I do dumb crap like quote myself into policy." Clara raised a brow. "And this is new?" He chuckled, then looked at her. Really looked. "But when you're gone, the air here changes. The room's colder. The weight gets heavier. And I don't breathe quite right until I know you're back." The silence between them stretched. Then Clara reached over and took another sip of her cider. She didn't smile, but her eyes softened. "I missed you too, Darren." He exhaled, like a breath he'd been holding for weeks finally released. Then he picked up his mug again and gestured at her with it. "If you ever tell anyone I got sappy, I'll blame Bianca's cooking." Clara smirked. "Already planning to." They sat there in the quiet warmth of shared history, 2 soldiers, 2 shadows in the same war, finally breathing the same air again. Chapter 8. Groundwork. The noon sun poured through the reinforced windows of the workshop's upper briefing room, painting angled shadows across the rune-etched walls and polished table. Fresh uniforms, clean armour, a faint scent of soap and caffeine. Everyone had managed at least a few hours of sleep, and just enough hot water to feel human again. Now they gathered. At the centre of the long table lay a set of ancient-style scrolls, handwritten in twin languages, each marked with runes of consent and mirrored seals. A diplomatic artifact crafted by both Elven historians and Echo Division's legal team, designed to be timeless. Gunner stood at the head of the table, sleeves rolled, patch in place, expression unreadable. Beside him, Maelorion stood with practiced grace. Robes dark, silver circlet on his brow, his long fingers already holding the ceremonial quill. And next to them, Arms crossed and posture sharp, stood Sophia Reyes, representing Earth and the United States government, her signature already inked beside the others. There were no speeches, only a shared glance between the three of them, and a nod. Maelorion signed. Gunner followed. Sophia added the final stroke. The scroll glowed briefly, light curling along its edges, sinking into the parchment like breath into living stone. It was done. Outside the window, the ridge was already stirring. Echo engineers and the 5077th prepping modular systems, forklifts humming to life, drones taking flight. Elven builders and rune masters moved among them, unrolling silk blue schematics and levitating stones into place. The embassy had officially begun. The team filed out together, splitting off into command clusters and logistics units. Wolves ran alongside moving pallets. Orders were barked. The first outer wall was already being traced, in chalk and rune dust. Clara stepped out last, her pack slung over one shoulder, her rifle secure across her back. Gunner was waiting for her. They stood at the edge of the platform that overlooked the ridge. "Everything we've fought for," she said, nodding toward the chaos below. "Everything we're still fighting for," he answered. Clara turned toward him, eyes sharp but warm. "You coming?" He nodded. "In a day or two. I need to lock this down first." She studied him for a second longer, something unspoken in her gaze. Then she simply said, "Don't wait too long." "I won't," Gunner promised. Clara gave him a nod, then whistled low. Omega bounded up the ridge, tail high, teeth gleaming in the sun. Together they turned toward the glowing ring of the active portal, the path to Eldamire wide open, for once. And then they were gone. The knock was soft, almost hesitant, which made it more unsettling than any war drum. Gunner looked up from the scattered field reports, tension already tightening across his shoulders. "Doors open," he said. It slid aside. Maelorion stepped in alone, his usual robes replaced by a travel-worn cloak. No circlet, no staff, just a quiet presence and a long silence that said this wasn't council business. He closed the door behind him. "Something wrong?" Gunner asked, standing to face him. Maelorion studied him for a moment before replying. "Number, but something must be said." He didn't sit. Instead, he walked the room slowly, hands behind his back, eyes drifting across the old weapons rack, the cracked map on the wall, the battered desk. He stopped near the window, gaze angled toward the courtyard below, where the embassy build had begun, then turned back. "I have seen you in battle, seen the weight you carry, the loyalty you command, the fire you step into without hesitation. But I have also seen you when you think no one is watching. And I have seen her, the way she watches you." Gunner tensed but said nothing. Aeliana was raised among balance, discipline, tradition. I taught her that the Guardians never belong to anyone, that love for us must always bow to duty. A pause, but I was not foolish enough to believe she would never feel it. Maelorion stepped closer now, his voice lower, gentler. "I have seen love twisted into weakness, and I have seen it become the foundation of impossible strength. I see it between the two of you." Gunner looked down. Maelorion's tone didn't harden. It softened. "So I am not here to forbid anything. I am here to ask. Do you love her, Gunner? Not with caution, not with guilt, but with truth?" Gunner lifted his gaze. His voice, when it came, was quiet but firm. "Yes, I've tried not to, for the sake of balance, for the sake of duty, for her. But, yes." Maelorion gave a single nod, measured, heavy with things unsaid. Then, more surprising, he stepped forward and placed a hand on Gunner's shoulder. "Then let me say this, not as counselor, not as guardian, but as the man who raised her. If you ever seek her, do so with your whole heart, never halfway, never in hiding. She deserves more than restraint, She deserves someone who will stand at her side through fire, shadow, and silence. His eyes sharpened. And if that someone is you, then do not run from it. Do not let fear or prophecy make you smaller than the man I know you are. Gunner's throat tightened. You're giving me permission? Maelorion smiled, just a flicker. I am giving you the burden. What you do with it will shape more than just the two of you. He released Gunner's shoulder and turned toward the door. We'll see you in Alfheim. Then he paused one last time at the threshold. And Gunner, when you come for her, not just for the war. And then he was gone. Gunner stepped out of his office into the warm buzz of conversation, echoing off the vaulted ceiling of the workshop's foyer. Maelorion and Aeliana stood together near the portal control console, cloaks fastened, expressions composed. Around them, a few Echo Division operatives, Desera, Caleb, Eli, and Sophia Reyes, held a low conversation, a small circle of calm before departure. Aeliana caught Gunner's approach first. She didn't smile, but the stillness in her shoulders changed, softer, less braced. Maelorion turned, his expression unreadable, but Gunner saw it. The nod, subtle, barely a dip of the chin. But it carried everything they'd just shared, the unspoken permission, the burden now in Gunner's hands. Gunner returned the gesture with equal silence. I believe it's time, Maelorion said. Sophia, would you do me the honor of escorting me to the gate? I'm still not entirely convinced your portal security won't try to scan my teeth. Sophia raised an eyebrow but smirked. Just don't bring any contraband fruit. They're very strict. He turned to Aeliana. No hurry, he said, with a soft edge that wasn't there moments ago. I'll see you back in Alfheim. He didn't embrace her, didn't reach out, but the connection between them hummed, like the way starlight clings to water. Then he turned to Gunner one last time. Another nod, and he walked out with Sophia beside him, their footfalls quiet on the stone. The remaining Echo members exchanged subtle glances. Then, one by one, they peeled away, leaving only two figures in the fading light of the chamber. Gunner and Aeliana. The silence stretched between them, not uncomfortable, just full. Aeliana turned to him fully now, hands clasped in front of her cloak, golden hair falling in loose waves over one shoulder. He spoke to you, she said softly. Gunner didn't pretend otherwise. Yeah. What did he say? He looked down for a moment, then back at her, his eye tired but steady. That he'd see me in Alfheim. She studied him a second longer, like she was trying to read a message between the scars. Anything else? He hesitated, then shook his head gently. She didn't press. Instead, she stepped forward, close enough for the warmth between them to register. I wish, her voice barely rose above breath, I wish you'd let me fix your eye. Gunner almost smiled. You've offered before, and you always refuse. He touched the edge of his patch. Reminds me where I've been, what I've survived. She stepped even closer. Slowly, she reached up and placed her hand gently on his cheek, her fingers brushing just beneath the edge of the patch. You survived a war, she said. You don't have to keep reliving it. His hand lifted, instinctively, and covered hers, holding it there for a moment. I need the reminder, he said quietly. The war's not over yet. Her other hand found his. They stood like that, hand in hand, her palm warm against his jaw, his fingers resting over hers. Aeliana's eyes shimmered, not with tears, but with everything she wouldn't say aloud. So she said something else instead. You don't have to walk alone. Gunner's voice was rough. Neither do you. They stood there as the portal behind them pulsed with soft light, open, waiting. Finally, she pulled back, but not abruptly. Just enough. She gave a small nod, her expression steady but aching. And then she stepped toward the portal. turning back one last time at the edge. "Don't wait too long, Alpha." Gunner's reply was quiet. "I won't." And then she was gone. The portal shimmered once and went still. Gunner remained there in the silence, her warmth still lingering on his cheek and in his hand. Alone again, but not untouched. Epilogue. The Balance Watchers. The stone was set, the seals signed. The embassy rose from the soil of Pack territory, its foundation a fusion of Earth and Alfheim, bound by the first sacred stone drawn from the Heartspire Mountains. By week's end, elven towers stood beside human watch stations. Runes pulsed beside sensor arrays. Darren called it the strangest marriage of magic and machinery since Eli installed spell code in the coffee maker. But it worked. The alliance was holding. At the same time, far across the ley line web, Eldemire stirred back to life. The ruined city, once shattered in fire and betrayal, now buzzed with scaffolding and lantern light. The portal to Earth held. So did the connection to Concordia. Trade resumed. People returned. The silence that had lingered for decades was finally breaking. And high above it all, in the Moonspire chamber of the Guardian Council, 3 ancient voices gathered in secrecy. Maelorion, Vaelith, Thandor. Only they knew the full verse. Only they had held its weight alone. Until now. Maelorion stood at the edge of the great crystal scrying window, hands clasped behind his back. "He didn't say the words," he murmured. Vaelith's voice came sharp. "But you saw it in him." Maelorion nodded once. Clear as day. He didn't need to say it. He feels it, deeply. Thandor's tone was heavier. "And Aeliana?" "She already knows," Maelorion said, "even if she cannot yet speak it, even if she still fights it." A long pause filled the chamber. Then Maelorion added, "He will come for her. Not because the war demands it, because his heart does. I have no doubt." Vaelith turned toward the sealed vault where the prophecy of the Stormbound slept in rune-bound parchment. "And when he does?" she asked. Maelorion didn't turn. He simply looked out across the realm, toward the path that led back to Earth. Then the balance will tip, and the prophecy will no longer sleep.